Okay, namaste and good morning, everybody. Now, in this short video, I'm going to talk about poetry and the types of poetry. Okay, what is poetry? First of all, let me talk about it. Poetry is a form of literary expression that uses rhythmic and often condensed language to convey emotions, ideas, and images. It means poetry is especially written in a rhythmic form and that is condensed. Okay, there is the use of condensed language. Why? To convey the emotions of the speaker, ideas and images. Okay, and unlike prose, which is followed or which is based on a straightforward narrative structure, poetry is characterized especially by its use of meter, rhyme, and various other stylistic elements like metaphor, symbolism, and alliteration. These are the some basic elements of poetry in which the writer, or let's say the poet, use the metaphor and symbolism as well as the alliteration. Alliteration refers to the continuation, or let's say the use of the same consonant sound in the initial position of within a sentence, and it often explores complex themes. It means poem often explores the complex themes through the use of imaginative language and aiming to evoke a particular response from the reader or listener. Okay, this is what we called poetry. Similarly, there are different views that we can find regarding poetry, and some of the scholars uh, say that are especially it is often defined as a form of literary expression that emphasizes the aesthetic and rhythmic qualities of language. Like T.S. Eliot, one of the poet, says that poetry is the rhythmic creation of beauty, and it suggests that the arrangement of words in a particular order creates an emotional and intellectual impact. So, William Wordsworth, another romantic poet, describes poetry as the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. Okay, this very definition highlights its connection to deep emotion and personal experience. This is what we call poetry. Now, types of poetry, and there are different types of poetry, and some of the major types of poetry are as follows. One is epic poetry, and epic poetry is a lengthy narrative poem that deals or that details the heroic deeds of legendary or historical figures, and it is often written in an elevated style and often includes the supernatural elements. And another important thing that you need to understand about epic poetry is that it explores themes such as heroism, morality, and it deals with the struggle between good and evil. It means bad thing. So this type of poetry is called epic poetry. And in the field of English literature, let's say Beowulf. Okay, the writer is unknown. He is regarded as the first epic. Similarly, Munamadan, Mahabharat. Okay, these are the some epics related to Nepali literature. And next form of poetry or next type of poetry is ballad, and it is also a narrative poem that tells a story. Okay, this ballad is a narrative poem and that tells a certain story, usually in simple and direct style, and often set to music. There is the setting of music also in this type of poetry, and it has a regular rhythm and rhyme scheme also, which makes it easy to memorize and recite. And another important thing about the ballad which we need to understand is that ballads typically focus on the themes of love, death, or some historical events. Okay, this is short information to you about ballad. Next type of poetry is sonnet. Okay, and sonnet is a poem of 14 lines that follows a specific rhyme scheme and meter, And traditionally, sonnet is written in iambic pentameter, and especially there are two types of sonnet. One is the Italian, that is also called Petrarchan sonnet, and next one is the English sonnet, that is also known as Shakespearean sonnet. And sometimes we find another Spenserian sonnet also. And sonnets often explore the themes of love, beauty, and morality. So, next type of poetry is free verse, and free verse is a type of poetry that does not follow a specific rhyme scheme. Okay, this is it has not followed any rhyming pattern, or let's say rhyming scheme. That's why it is a free verse, and it has also not followed the certain meter or structure, and it mimics natural speech and focuses on the rhythm of thought and the flow of ideas, and free verse allows for greater freedom in expression. This type of poetry is what we call free verse. And next one is haiku. Okay, another type of poetry is haiku, and haiku is a traditional Japanese form of poetry, and it was originated in Japan. And especially there are three lines in haiku with the syllable structure of 5 7 5. It means in the first line there should be five syllable, and second line there should be seven structure, and in the third line there should be five syllable. So it captures a moment often from nature with clarity and simplicity, and haikus is typically include a seasonal reference and evoke deep reflection. Okay, I have copied one haiku from Google here. Okay, that goes like this. बन्दुक बोकी एक जोडी परेवा लुम्बिनीतिर. Okay, I have found this in Google, and this is an example of haiku. So if you go through the structure of this very haiku, you will get the syllable structure of 5 7 5. Okay, then next type of poetry is ode, and ode is a type of lyric poem that expresses admiration or praise for a person, event, or thing. It means if you write a poem describing, or let's say praising some person, some event, or some object or thing, that type of poetry is an example of ode, and it is formal in tone and often written in ceremonious style. And odes typically follow a regular stanza pattern and rhyme scheme. And next type of poetry is lyric poetry. And lyric poetry is a short poem that expresses personal emotions and feelings, usually in the first person. It has musical quality also, often with an emphasis on sound, rhythm, and imagery. So lyric poems focus on a single subject or moment. So these are the some types of poetry, and another type of poetry is also there, which I have not included here in this slide. However, let me explain it. That is elegy, and elegy is a poem that is often written in the sad moment. It means in the death of someone, especially if you when you are in the what sad moment because of the death of your nearest and dearest, and at that time you may write a poetry. So that type of poem is called an elegy. Okay, in Nepali it is called शोक काव्य. कसैको मृत्यु भएको बेलामा तपाईँ विक्षिप्त भइरहनु भएको छ, त्यो बेलामा यदि तपाईँ कविता लेख्नुहुन्छ भने that type of poetry is called an elegy. So these are some types of poetry. Hope that you will get some ideas about poetry and the types of poetry watching this very short video. Thank you very much for watching it.